restaurant. When I was a kid, it was a barn. And Charlie Nowzinski had the junkyard, and he put stuff in that barn that he could resell, like a good wood stove, a coal stove, maybe a hitching post for a horse, anything out of metal. So that's what that was. And then later, Donnie Davenport put the Birch in. It was a great bar in town, a stand-up bar. You go in there, you couldn't sit, you couldn't get sleepy. People stood up and talked. There was businessmen, day workers. I mean, it was a real open at 7 in the morning. You had people waiting. Here's my buddy Mike Hershey. Anyway, he probably went to Birch in one time at least. So then, coming down the street, across the street, is Pacey Glass. That was a very old glass family that had made glass for DuPont and other chemical companies, testing tubes and stuff. And that family stayed there for many years. And then when imports started hurting their business, we bought that property, Taylor Well, because it adjoined us. So coming down the street a little further, it was the Kennett Ice Company. And so when ice went out of favor back in the 70s, people were getting refrigerators, they were getting ice makers in the refrigerator, or ice cubes. And so the ice business dwindled, but it was a very important part of this borough, that ice company. And it was one of the highest volume output of ice in the tri-state area. Oliver Groves, when he took it over, he bought two other ice companies incorporated with the existing ice company. They supplied all the ice for Limerick to cool the cement when they're building that. I worked there as a kid before Oliver Groves for Mr. Miller, Saturdays and Sundays in school. And actually, I got fired for coming in late, going out Friday night and Saturday night. I didn't have to be to work at 7. I'd be a little bit late. So what I did, I bought the plant and tore it down. So now we made a propane facility out of it. I didn't tear it down for that reason. We bought it because, it adjoined our property, and we didn't know what we were going to do with it. But luckily, in 1992, we had all these oil customers that were burning propane gas for cooking and hot water and so forth. So we tried that, and it's worked out wonderful for our company. So across the street from the ice company is our oil office. That was originally owned by Harold Hannum. He was a premium home builder, had a good reputation, and had top-notch people working for him, I understand. So when he went out of business, we bought that property. In back of that property, when we had our first office on Broad Street, it was Hamilton Ice and Coal Company, and they started selling oil. And so when they retired, Swim Pop bought an oil truck in 1951, but we bought that property also. That's where our oil is, and across the street's where our propane is. So then we come down here to, the trolley barn. Braylock was a trolley barn. Kennett had trolleys, and the tracks ran all over. They ran to Westchester, Lenape, even down to Brandywine Springs Park in Delaware. And so at night, they would come down at the end of the day and pull in the trolley barns, get serviced and recharged or whatever they did to fix, keep them maintained. So, and then it became, there was a company moved in there. Then it became MGA Spawn Company. And my wife, who's here, she was our first job when we got married in 1957. She was a secretary. MGA was Mushroom Growers Association. It was a co-op. Mushroom growers combined, bought that building, and they made their own spawn. That's the seed for mushrooms. And that flourished up until, I guess, competition might have put them out of business, I'm not sure. So, and then other companies have moved in here, and now it's a Braylock. Down here, right across from us, Mushroom Trance was a very big company, important company to Kennett and to Birch Street. That building in the back was their maintenance garage for hundreds of trucks. And their main terminal was in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. But they also had the drivers and many people in the street and around town work for mushroom transportation, either driving or maintenance. So that was a very big employer and big part of Kennett Square. I guess originally they started hauling mushrooms, but they ended up hauling freight of all types. So then we moved next door here. I remember was his mission. That was Margaret Valentine, and she would take in all homeless, any homeless people, people in need, no charge, and she always refused money from governments, and people would, donate, and people around town, even the Legion or anybody, that had big picnics with food left over, we'd bring them down to the mission. People that just kept her. I think it's still going, I'm not sure. Well, I know when she passed away, her daughters or family took it over, but I'm not sure about today. So then we moved down the street a little bit. On the right down here, one of the house with the peaked roof in the middle, 416. That was the home of William W. Fay. He was a distant relative of mine because my grandmother was a Fay, although we really never got it connected. Ed Fay and I always tried to connect him. We wanted to be a relative of him. He was the first person killed in World War I. Yeah. So when they built American Legion, they dedicated it to William W. Fay. So, when he was killed in Belgium, he was only over there 2 weeks. He was a young man, a house painter, and so when they brought him back to Kennett, they say it was the biggest funeral. So, moving down the street here. Then we have the creamery, which I never remember it as a creamery, but I remember it as the MGA cannery. And so there again, it was a co-op, the same co-op that had the Spawn Company. And they had canned mushrooms, and a big operation, a lot of people. My mother, we lived about 2 blocks up on South Willow, and a lot of ladies in her neighborhood would get down there and work and cut the stems off and so forth. They talked her into coming down. She worked till noon and never went back. I never had another job after that. But she couldn't take orders, I guess, like me. But anyway, so then we had, the creamery is the Kennett Cannery. It stood idle for a lot of years. And I don't remember the creamery. I do remember the cannery being open, but then after imports of canned mushrooms, it destroyed all the canneries in the Kennett area. So that's about it. And then down the street a little bit further on the across. Oh, there was on this side, this corner, it was William Smith Excavating Company, a big company, and across the street from that was Ty Sinclair Junkyard. And that guy, everybody knew, don't cry, call Ty. If you needed a car part, he mostly bought cars. And that's my knowledge of Birch Street. So I think it's a great project, and Taylor Oil, we're behind all of it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Bill. The Life and Times of Birch Street, right there. I think it's a new book.